Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Business here at the Stay at Home Bookkeeper Academy. I am joined co-hosting today with Deanna Rogers. Hey, Deanna, how you doing?
Hey, how are you, everyone?
Good, good, good. As we get going today, I want you to pop in the chat and say where you are coming from. We look forward to chatting with you all today. And we are diving into a topic that a lot of new bookkeepers tend to avoid at first, but it's often one of the fastest ways to grow your business, and that is in-person networking.
All right, who's ever heard of in-person networking? All right. So from BNI groups to local events, coffee chats, which is one of my favorites, to even those quick elevator pitches, knowing how to show up and talk about what you do is so incredibly powerful. And we've brought in the perfect, I would say, absolute perfect guest to talk about it. Tracy Rosenberry, our head of education, and someone who not only teaches it, but she does it. So let's jump in. How are you doing today, Tracy?
Doing good.
Awesome. All right. So we are going to be interactive. We want everyone to ask questions. Feel free to pop in the chat, be engaging, because again, we feed off of your energy. So, Tracy, let's start here. Why is in-person networking still so incredibly powerful in a world that's become really very digital?
Yeah. Connection. Connection is everything when it comes to getting clients. So, you can connect with people in a million different ways. You can email, you can phone call, DMs, text. But there is just something so special about face-to-face interactions. When we're talking right now, you see my face, you see me smile, you see my hand gestures, body language, the things that really help us to connect on a deeper level. Did you know? Studies have shown that as much as 93% of communication comes from nonverbal cues. So when you're face to face, your brain is constantly picking up on those micro expressions and the energy even before you consciously realize it. And that is why face to face networking allows us to build trust and connect so much faster. And I just think, in today's digital world, it's even more powerful because people are genuinely starved for that human connection.
I love that. You could not have said that any better. I love it. And I personally love in-person networking. So, all right. Well, let's start with what do you say to new bookkeepers who are feeling nervous or even a little awkward about showing up to a room of strangers and this necessarily is not their cup of tea, so to speak, right? What would you say to them?
Well, I mean, feeling nervous is totally normal, and especially when you're just starting out. But, I think the problem, most people go into networking thinking that it's about selling, and it's not. It's about building relationships. If you go into meeting thinking, how do I sell my services? You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. That energy is going to come through and people can feel it. So, my advice is to shift your focus from you and your services to the people in the room. Every person that you meet has their own needs and challenges, and if you approach conversations with genuine curiosity and a willingness to listen, that is going to take all the pressure off because now you're here to help. You're not selling, you're building connections.
I will say this really quickly. Whenever I go somewhere, I always tell myself before I get out of the car, I'll say, okay, I just got to meet one new person and make it my goal to meet one new person and then I'm good. But I always end up meeting like 10 or more, right? But when you kind of just set yourself for, I just got to go in there and I just got to make one really great connection, then you feel like the pressure is not so overwhelming. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank
I love
you.
that. So let's get a little specific. So we're talking about networking today, and one of the biggest ways we teach people to network is called BNI groups. So Tracy, can you talk about BNI? What is BNI? And I know you've done them yourself, so it's gonna be a two-parter. What is it, and what has been your experience working in BNI groups, and how did that lead to real clients and real connections for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, my experience with BNI was like total game changer for my business. But BNI it stands for Business Networking International. It is a referral group. So their sole purpose is to give referrals to other people, share referrals with other people. That's how the whole meeting is structured on just passing referrals back and forth. How can I help you? So that is what BNI is, and it's exclusive. So if you are a bookkeeper in BNI, you are the bookkeeper in that BNI chapter. So that's another really cool thing about BNI that's a little bit different from other networking groups. But like I said, it was a total game changer for my business. It did lead to real clients and a lot of valuable connections. In fact, my first visit to the chapter that I ended up joining, I stood up, I introduced myself, and right after, one of the members stood up and said, "I need you." So that was my first client from BNI before I was even officially accepted into the group. I stayed a member of that BNI group for about 4 years, and I looked this up yesterday because I had needed to come with real numbers. But just during those 4 years, I made just under $250,000 from BNI referrals alone.
Wow.
So yeah, I was
There
even
you
kind
go.
of shocked to go back and see that, and I was like, "Wow, okay, that's awesome." But I have to say it's probably a whole lot more than that, honestly, because what's even more valuable than connections, it's the connections that I made because those relationships led to other opportunities and referrals that I still benefit from even today. It's a ripple effect.
Can we get a little bit technical here? Can you tell the people who are watching who may have not heard of a BNI, how do they find BNI groups? Are they in person? Are they virtual?
So there's both. There's both. The chapter that I went to, was part of, it was in person, but they do have both. They have virtual chapters. They also have hybrid. So they may meet like once a month, and then the other 3 weeks of the month they're meeting online.
Okay, cool. So you talked a little bit about your experience when you started at a BNI and your first experience, you went in there and someone needed you right away. Um, as you've trained our bookkeepers, as you've talked about networking in the past, what are a few things you've seen people maybe do wrong in networking situations and how they can avoid these pitfalls?
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes I see is that people are focusing too much on selling themselves right away instead of
Mhm.
taking that time to build a relationship first. It's about relationships. Networking is not about making immediate sale, it's planting seeds for the future. And another pitfall that I see all the time is just being too passive. Just if you just show up to a couple of meetings and hope that things are going to happen, they're probably not. You have to be present. You have to be consistent. You have to engage. You have to ask questions and really listen to the people around you. One of my favorite sayings from BNI is givers gain. And I love it because if someone is all about helping you succeed, wouldn't you want to do whatever you could to help them succeed too? So when you focus on giving, the connections will naturally follow.
So let's dive in there because you don't want to be that salesy person like you said, but not be so passive. So let's talk about how you talk when you go to these BNS. Maybe you can give us a couple examples. What was your favorite way to introduce yourself as a bookkeeper, and try to make this as simple and as confidential as it can, so that others can kind of emulate what you say when you go into the room.
Yeah. I it's pretty simple. I like to focus on a problem that I can solve and how that's going to help the person I'm talking to. The key is really to make it about them and not me. The worst thing you can do is go in and say, "I'm a bookkeeper who categorizes transactions in QuickBooks." Yeah. It's boring
Boring.
and it doesn't
Yep.
connect. It doesn't connect. So, I mean, you have to connect the dots for the business owners for them. And another thing that I really like to do is keep it specific. I may be able to solve 100 different problems for 100 different businesses, but if I try to list out everything, it's going to get lost. So, I really like to pick one thing and then focus on that. So, for example, I might say, "I'm Tracy with Delightful Digits, and I help restaurant owners like you to manage your cash flow so that you can keep your vendors, your employees, and yourself paid and stress free. That way, you can focus on running your business instead of worrying about whether you have enough to cover your bills." Simple, specific. It addresses a common problem for my audience. And it not only connects them with the solution, but a feeling. If I'm a business owner and I'm stressed, even if I'm not a restaurant owner, if I'm just a business owner and I'm stressed about paying my employees, I am hearing that and I'm hearing stress free. I don't have to worry about the cash in the bank. Sign me up.
I
Yep.
love that.
You want to go
Go
ahead?
ahead. No, go ahead.
I want to ask so many follow-up
I
questions.
know, I
This is
know. Yeah.
important. We have a lot of new people who may are just starting a BNI or thinking about joining, and I hear a lot about nerves, and maybe I can plan what to say, but do you have any techniques or tips to get those nerves out of your system whenever you're going to your first BNI meeting and preparing your pitch?
I mean, I will tell you the first time I went, I literally wrote something down and I was reading it from my phone. So I don't think, it's okay. It's okay. People understand. You don't have to be perfect. You can totally just write something down and read it. That's okay. But you're going to get more comfortable as you go.
Mhm.
I think, if you really follow that formula of just keeping it simple, asking for one thing, just say, hey, here's who I'm talking to today. And that's what I'm gonna say. Just say it. And people, we already talked about this, what 93% of the conversation is your energy. People aren't really caring what you say, they're
Mhm.
listening more to you. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. But if you gotta write it down and read it. That's okay.
I agree. I think you can write down. I've always said though, like treat it like your children or your grandchildren. Like when someone says, "How are your children?" You don't go and read a card and go, "Well, my child is 10 and he or she is in football." Like no, like good core. I mean, maybe if you're not really their parent, but if you're their parent, you talk about the fact that you love them and they're so great and they do this and they do that. And it comes across in your eyes, your mouth, your body language of how you talk about your child or your grandchildren. So your business should be exactly the same way. You should go in and talk about it and be excited and just like Tracy said, you should just share. Like it shouldn't be overwhelming. It should be just from passionate about what you do and how you can help them. And that'll portray on your body language and everything that they see. When it starts feeling forced, it's like, you just think of it as your child.
Yeah. And I love that too, the passion, because I always I like to speak from the passion as well. Find if you don't know what you're passionate about in your business, find it. Find it because
Mhm.
there's something. And I will tell you, a lot of the reason I started my business was so I could be there for my kids, so I could be there for all of their things. And I connected with people just about that. So even if you're like, oh gosh, nobody's gonna care that I'm here, I start a business for my kids. I will tell you, I got clients just because we connected over, hey, I started my business for my kids too, so I could be there for them.
I
You
love that.
don't
I
know.
was talking to a new one of the people I work with one-on-one who was nervous about their first BNI, and she was talking about, I started this business because I'm passionate about my family. I want to spend more time with my family. And so we kind of roped that into her speech. I'm XYZ name from blah 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 bookkeeping company, trademark that. And I started my business because I'm passionate about my family and connectivity, and I want to bring that to my clients. I want to take care of your books and your finances. So on the weekends, you're not looking through your receipts, you're at your kid's ball game. She worked that into her presentation and found that as well, Tracy. So I really like that point. And when we're talking about nerves and getting through your first BNI, I think just as a tactical way, you can practice. If you've got a partner, a spouse, your children, they'll roast you if it's bad. They'll help you make it better. Or a
Okay, hold on.
team.
Let's ask anyone. Anyone here ever felt roasted? I would like type it in the chat.
I think that would probably be scarier than a room full of business owners who know, like, if it's your first time, people are nervous and you just say a couple sentences, but practice. I always say to people, you don't want the first time you're talking about your business to be live in front of a group full of people. You have people in your life, mentors, people on our team, if you're part of our program, that can work with you and get some of that practice out. But I want to
Can
keep
I
going
jump on
along.
that really quickly
Yeah, yeah,
though?
go
And
ahead.
before, so just this is something practical that I want everyone here watching and listening to use. If you don't have someone to talk to or practice to, use your phone. Seriously, just record yourself doing that and then go back and watch it and you'll be able to practice on your own. It literally takes, I've done that. I can't even tell you how many times I've done that, right? Like
Mhm.
doing that just so that you can see the way you speak, how your eyes, everything, like kind of how you're emulating things, how you're talking about certain things. You can see yourself doing it, and it'll help you kind of like put into perspective what you want to change or what you want to do or how you want to say something. So I personally think that your cell phone is like your best friend as far as being able to practice there. So sorry, Em.
No, that's great. That is great. So we're talking a lot about helping people who may be newer build that confidence. And we hear a lot of people assume you have to already be successful to start networking. But Tracy, is it okay to start networking even when you're a brand new business or you're still learning? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to be an expert. In fact, people love to help those who are new because they've been there themselves. And you may or may not know this, but there's actually even specific networking groups out there just for supporting new businesses. But regardless, whether it's one of those groups geared for new businesses, if it's BNI or if it's a chamber, whatever it is, when you start networking early, you're building relationships that are going to help you as you grow. Plus, you're getting your name out there. And when you do have more experience, people are already going to know you and trust you. So in networking, it's like we've said this, connections, it's connection. It's about building relationships and growing.
Mhm.
So you're already on the right track.
Great. So we've talked about before networking group, how to prepare. We've talked about how to find the networking group, what to do in the networking group. What would you recommend for after that networking event, either going to your BNI or you're a different type of networking event? How should people follow up in a way that builds real relationships once they've attended these events?
Yeah. It's a saying, right? Like what the money is in the follow-up.
Yep. The fortune of
Um,
the follow-up. Yep.
yeah, it's a saying for a reason. I always like to follow up. The follow-up is really, that is the gold. It really is.
Mhm.
You don't just go, that's not where you really make the connections with people. Is just like, oh, hey, hi, here's my business card. That's like not where you're building the relationship. It's after that. It comes after. It comes in actually talking to them one-on-one. So, I like to get on, I like to get a one-on-one with them, get a call with them, either whether that is going to grab a coffee together, or if it's just, a 20-minute Zoom call to connect. So I'm going to send them a message. I want to follow up within the first couple of days. I don't want to just say, hey, it was good to meet you. I want to like bring something. So I'm going to mention something we talked about to show that I was listening. I'm going to express interest in them. Be genuine about, I really want to connect with you. I really want to stay connected. If you have, something that you can offer value, maybe they asked you about, oh, I don't understand um how to do, how to create an invoice. Maybe you could send them a little thing from QuickBooks on like how to create an invoice. I don't know. There's so many things like they could be talking about different things. Just send them something that pertains to that. Or if you don't have something, just be genuine, but you've got to reach out to them. Be proactive about reaching out. Schedule that one-on-one with them, grab a coffee together, get on a Zoom call, because that is where the real relationship building happens. When you open up and you start sharing your story, people are going to tend to open up to you as well. And that is where you're building trust.
I have a little secret there, and I stole this from somebody that did it to me, so I can't take the credit for it. But I found the best way was when they came back from an event, they actually sent me a response and said, hey, I was thinking about you and I wanted to make a connection. And they connected me to somebody and partner and said, hey, and if you want any more, let's just get on a Zoom and chat and let's figure out how we can make other connections happen. I
I
thought
love
that was
that.
so outstanding because they were giving first. They were like making a connection with me, and I had mentioned something about healthcare, like looking for small business healthcare. And so this person was like, oh, I was just thinking of you last night after meeting with you, and I wanted to make this connection, da da da. So here you go, introduce, here's Emily, and chatting. And then she's like, and if you guys want to do a Zoom and I can try to see who else I can chat with you more, let's set up a time next week for a follow-up. You're not going to say no when they just literally connected you with someone. So I just thought that was probably one of the best reaches that I had ever experienced on my side. So I now have made a point of doing that when I go to places as well. So that might be something else to kind of get you in the mood.
Mhm.
um okay, so talking about, let's going back, going to the BNIs and people that are afraid of going to their local events and they're on the fence about, I don't know if I can go, I'm nervous or I'm really too busy. What would you say to push them out that door?
Well, I mean, the first step's always the hardest, but once you show up, you're going to see how valuable it is. And you remember, you're not just showing up to pitch your services. You're there to connect, you're there to learn, you're there to grow. One of the things I always have to remind myself, you don't regret the things that you try and fail. You regret the things you never tried. You never know where that next opportunity is going to come from. And the only way to find out is to get out there and try.
I love that. All right, last question. I promise we could probably do this forever, but I want to be very respectful of your time. Let's leave this with, what has been the biggest win or that best moment that you've personally experienced because you were willing to put yourself out there in person at one of these events?
Yeah. You know what? It is so hard to pick just one. I had so many good experiences, obviously like incredible connections. The fact that I made almost $250,000 wasn't bad, but if I had to really zone in on the biggest win, it's not one moment. It was the consistency. It was the confidence that I gained from consistently putting myself out there week after week. So, when we're talking about like what would you tell people that don't want to go? What would you tell people that are scared? I was that scared person. You might not know it by like looking at me now, but when I first started BNI, I was terrified. I was literally shaking, like really shaking in my first meetings. I hated doing any sort of presentations in front of people. When it came time for me to do my 10 minutes, I kept putting it off. I kept pushing it out. But when I finally did it, I stood in one spot. I had my notes like this. I barely looked up. I was reading from them. But little by little, continuing to show up week after week after week after week and being surrounded by a supportive group, I eventually gained the confidence to get over that fear. I Obviously, it's very different now. I started volunteering to speak to other groups about bookkeeping and taxes. I've done over 20 different in-person presentations for different business groups, something that I never would have imagined when I first started. And of course, here in my current role, I've led hundreds of live group calls at this point, but I wouldn't be here if I hadn't put myself out there and faced those fears head on. And in-person networking played a really big part in that journey to where I'm at today. And that's got to be my biggest one.
I love that. Oh, so great. Tracy, thank you so much for sharing your real world experience, showing us that networking doesn't have to be scary at all. It really just has to be genuine, right? All right. Well, again, Tracy, thank you so much. Emily, if you don't mind, do you happen to have that QR code slide that you had saved from earlier? Do you have
There we
that?
go.
There you go. Perfect. Pop that up. You guys, for anyone that would like to know what the next step is, if you're out there and you want to meet people and grow your business, we would love to help you. I want you to take that code right there, scan it to book your free clarity call with our team. It is a free call, no pressure. I can promise you. We just want to get to know you more and be able to figure out how we can help you and help get your business started. That is your sign right there to stop hiding behind the screen and start showing up like a business owner. So book your call. Tracy, again, thank you so much. And everyone,